you. So I'm going to switch my screen over here. Thanks everyone for joining. We have a couple of hundred attendees here, so feel free to queue in your questions. But I hope we're going to have a chance to answer them all. If not, then we'll probably take them off offline. So as I Steve mentioned, Yaroslav is I'm the one who's going to be presenting this particular presentation. A little bit about myself. I've been involved in SharePoint overall development and customization since version 2003, so lots of sites since then. I'm also a SharePoint MVP since 2009, which means that I participate and present in a lot of online and offline events like this one. And I have a blog, sharemuch.com. That's where you can reach me, and that's where I post a lot of variety of different topics on the SharePoint branding and overall SharePoint customization and development. And I also write books for fun. And one of my latest books is SharePoint 2010 Branding in Practice, which you can check out on Amazon, where there's pretty much in-depth the things that we're going to go over today, and a bit of a more in-depth developer type of scenarios. So what we're going to talk about today is SharePoint branding, and the main goal for this presentation, since SharePoint branding is a big topic, SharePoint is a big product, and it was kind of difficult to put an agenda together and say, well, this is what the branding is all about in an hour. So my main goal here is to for many of you where you work on an existing site, or you're creating a new brand new site, you probably are wearing multiple hats on the project or in the team that you're working at. So you might be a developer, or you might be someone who configures SharePoint. And more often than not, customers are asking, okay, well, that's great. Can we customize the user experience a little bit? Can we make changes to the put our corporate brand from our public sites into our intranet and things like that? So in a lot of cases, people that have worked with SharePoint for quite some time even are like, okay, well, how do I get started? What do I do? Like, what do I do? What do I modify? I develop web parts. I know how to create pages. I know how to configure pages. Well, what do I do in terms of branding so it doesn't break in the future, or it's easy to modify in the future? So I hope to give you an sort of an advanced overview. It's a technical demo after all, of what SharePoint branding is all about and what are some of the pieces that are going into it. So some of the things we're going to talk about is branding of the collaboration sites and using site themes for collaboration, for branding of a collaboration site. And then we're going to switch into the publishing sites, which are a majority of intranets and internets. Publishing sites obviously have a lot more flexibility in terms of how they can be branded. So we're going to be talking about some of the key concepts in terms of branding of a publishing site, such as a master page, page layout, and we're going to actually create our own page layout, and also we're going to talk about how we can make changes to publishing pages and master pages in terms of modifying the look and feel of the page, and etc. So this is pretty much 100% interactive demo. This is actually the last slide that I have. I'm going to switch back to my environment here, and that I'm going to be using for the demo. I'm going to work pretty much most of it through here. So I'm just going to minimize my SharePoint videos or my webinar window here, so you don't see any funny flickering or anything like that. Let me know if you do. So this is probably something that a lot of you have seen. This is a typical SharePoint team site, right? It has some files on here, some document libraries, it has a quick launch, some content on it. One of the things that you might ask is in terms of practicing on those particular examples that we're going to be showing here. How do you practice, and what do you use for your demo environment? If that's the something that applies to you, if you don't have an existing environment where you can play around with and customize the site, you can use one of the Microsoft provided demo environments. So if you if you search for 2010 IW demo and you know, hit the first result here, you can download the Microsoft 2010 demonstration virtual machine, and you need to download only part A, so not all of the parts. It's pretty big. It's like 7 gigabytes or so, so it's a pretty big virtual machine. But you can download all of the parts here, put it together, and it runs as a virtualized environment where you can you know, basically have a full version of SharePoint installed on it. There's an expiration on it, of course, but it should definitely be enough for you to get started. So that's definitely something you know, to keep in mind. If you do have an existing environment, or if you don't, in fact, I'm using that Microsoft demo environment right now. Here's basically, you know, your team site that you use in most of the companies use for collaboration and for staff collaboration, for document sharing, for extranet scenarios. So one of the things that obviously is on a typical collaboration site, if we go to the site settings of the site, is one of the key things available here is the ability to modify site themes. So site themes are built-in concept of SharePoint 2010 and past versions as well, and it allows you to modify basic parameters of look and feel on the site. Right now the page is still loading, so some of the parameters that you can modify, of course, is the predefined styles that are available on the site, such as, you know, the font type, font face, and as well as various colors and accents available on the site. So site themes, of course, are, you know, a powerful concept and great to get started, but there is definitely some limitations, right? So you can only modify whatever Microsoft lets you to modify. There's not too many options, as you'll see in a moment, and when you modify them, you basically you can only modify those particular options and none of the other ones. So that's basically the only option available out there for collaboration site template. In terms of publishing site template, well, publishing site template looks like this, right? So the publishing site is the site that's most typically used for intranet implementations, apart from the collaboration pieces, right? So the publishing site is something that you would start with, right? And let's say a corporate intranet, you would go into the corporate intranet where, you know, you have access to company news, company events, announcements. So that would be your publishing site, and then potentially some of the areas where actual teams collaborate and share documents. Those would be a team sites. But your starting point, and that's basically the main point where your boss would tell you, okay, I want to make, you know, he doesn't really care maybe how beautiful is the area where the team shares documents, but they definitely care about the fact how the homepage of their intranet looks like. So that's usually implemented using the publishing site. So going back to our collaboration site and some of the theme options that I've talked about a second ago. Let's take a look at some of those and see how they're different in the publishing site. So for some reason my virtual machine is a little bit slow today, so bear with me. So apart from out of the box site themes that are available here and site various themes and colors, you can also define your own based on the existing template or create your own template. So for instance, if I wanted to change, if I wanted to pick this site theme as a base, and I wanted to change the hyperlink color from green to, let's say, something else, you could pick it right from here. So let's make it red so we can definitely see it. Let's change. So hyperlink color is going to be now red, and we can change obviously the color here, etc. Once we're ready, we'll just click apply. There's also an option to apply to all of the subsites of this team site, or just to this particular team site. In our case, we're just applying to this particular team site the changes. So now that the changes have applied, I go back to my to the home page of my team site, and obviously you can see the settings on this particular site are have right away been applied. The site has inherited the look and feel that we've given it, and obviously the links are now red. Obviously, the same thing is going to be applied. Well, not on the search page, but if I go to the right URL, on a home page as well. But one of the problems, of course, as you'll see, is as you specify some of those options. For instance, you want to make those hyperlinks red. All of the hyperlinks on that page are going to turn, that red color, right? So what if you want to modify only part of your site to inherit certain look and feel, and the other, and the other part of the site or the other elements on the site make them look different? Well, in that case, you'd have to make some of potentially structural customizations to the site, which we're going to take a look at here using our example with the publishing site. So with the publishing site, there's, as I mentioned, a little bit more options in terms of what you're going to see. So here's, by the way, a homepage of our team site, and here's obviously all of the links that's changed right away to red. So what if I want to change only only shared documents to red or some other color, or make panel customizations, and here the quick launch make of some other color, or add some interaction to the quick launch. That is exactly what we're going to take a look at in terms of customizing the publishing site template. For the publishing site template, when I go to the site settings, you also see the theme settings available here. But one of the things that one of the other options that's available here, a couple of other options. One of the most important one here is the master page option. So the master page allows you to change the structure of the look and feel on the site. So in here, as you can see, the site master page right now is used. It's night and day.master. It's one of out-of-the-box demo master pages. The system master page, the master page of system pages like this page, is v4 master. So by the way, v4 master is the master page that's used on here as well. So all of the structure, the quick launch, the top bar here on this collaboration site, you can see it looks exactly the same on the system pages of the publishing site. So whereas in terms of site master page, we're using night and day.master. So we can change that here as well if we have more master pages, and we'll take a look at how you can create more master pages. So if I go back to the site here, to my demo site, of course the night and day.master, since night and day.master is applied, the look and feel of this site is way different. So let's take a look at how we can access that master page and see what that master page is all about. So among other options, the easiest option to access your master page is using a tool called Sharepoint Designer. So Sharepoint Designer is already installed on this demo virtual machine, and I already have it open here. But it's a free download. It used to have a license cost, but now it's a free download. It's a tool that allows you to open your SharePoint site and access various parameters of the site, including branding. You'll see how easy it is to modify some of the things on the site using Sharepoint Designer. So what you're looking at right now is the page of the Sharepoint Designer when you open the Designer and open a particular site URL. So in this case, I'm opening the site URL of contoso.com. So if you open contoso.com in your Sharepoint Designer, this is what the site's going to look like. So let's take a look at where the master page lives. If I click on all sites there, and Sharepoint Designer is going to access the all files. Sharepoint Designer is going to access the files on the file system, and those are all of the files that are available within SharePoint. So things like style library files, other document libraries, even shared documents, document library, and etc. But it also has some of the system libraries, which are loading right now. It should be loaded just about now. So there are some of the system libraries which hold things like styles, things like web part definition files, things like master pages and page layouts, which we're going to talk about in a moment.
Yaroslav?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a small bug actually in SharePoint Designer that I should point out right now. It's going to continue saying that, you know what, either refresh or you click somewhere else and you click on all files. I've noticed that a long time ago. I pointed it out to the team. Hopefully soon it's going to get fixed.
thanks for letting me know. We would be waiting here for a long time. Eh? I noticed that it's sometimes it's sometimes tricky. Thanks, Izzy. All right, so so now that we have a list of all of our pages, of all of our files here, under catalogs, we can find master page library here. So the master page library has a variety of different page layouts, which we'll talk about in a moment, and as well as master pages. And here you'll see there is already our v4 master, our night and day master, and some other default and minimal master, some of the other master pages that are used for different purposes. Obviously, the core one that we're already seeing is v4 master and night and day master. So let's take a look at what night and day master is all about. And I'm going to open the file, click edit the file, and we'll just take a look at the structure of night and day master. So one of the things I wanted to point out, of course, if you're going to be modifying default master page, sorry, not default master page, but in this case night and day master, if you don't want to, if you're experimenting with it, it's probably a better idea to create a copy of it, and I'll show you exactly how to do that. It's very easy. An example with the page layouts, rather than modifying potentially out of the box master page and potentially breaking it. We've all been there, asking how I know. So yeah, we're going to take a look at how to do that. But once you do that, if you create a copy, it will right away be available in this user interface here. Under Site Settings, under this user interface here, it'll right away be available as a drop-down. So that list is automatically refreshed when you create a new master page. So this is what the master page edit mode looks like. As you can see, right now it's split half and half, code view and the design view. You can switch to design mode only here on the bottom, or split view or code view only. I like the split view because what you can do, you can select pieces of different objects here, like this image here, and it'll throw you right in the code that's responsible for rendering it. So there you go. If you want to change a logo, that's where you change it. Right? Very easy. But one of the things that I wanted to show you is actually boundaries, where the master page ends and where page layout starts. Because in publishing site templates, there is a notion of not just a master page and a page inheriting the master page, but also the page layout. So the page layout, if the master page, if we go back to the to our site, if the master page is the Chrome and the quick launch and the footer of the site, so basically this area on the top here, this area on the left, and then the footer, well, we don't have any footer here, but there is a footer. It's where the master page is responsible for those components. The page layout is responsible for the layout of all of the web parts that are going to appear on the page. So if I go to the edit mode of my site actions, edit page, the boundary where the master page ends and the page layout starts is defined by the web part zones that are on the page. So basically, now that I'm in edit mode, if I scroll down here, basically wherever all of those areas where this particular title, the property edit box, and then this page image and the summary links, all of those, they don't belong to the master page anymore, including those web part zones. Those are part of the page layout, which we'll talk about in a moment. So the master page really ends right sort of here where this main content area starts, and I'll show you exactly where it is in Sharepoint Designer. Because in many cases you want to modify some of the some of the parts of the header of your master page, but not the rest. Or in other cases you may want to modify the main area or change some of the web part zones. In this case, you don't need to touch the master page. Master page can live by itself. So obviously this is the header of the page, of the master page. Here's the ribbon, of course. Everybody's familiar with the new concept of a ribbon. It's slowly penetrating the market. It started in Office, now it's in SharePoint. It's here to stay, probably. So this large chunk of code is all responsible for rendering the ribbon. There's also, the breadcrumb control. If you need the breadcrumb control or you want to change the style of it, here's where it is. the quick launch. Quick launch, if I scroll here and click on it, well, that's some other panel, but the quick launch is right here. As you can see, it's just a regular ASP.NET menu. One of the things that we're actually talking in the video, in the video DVD that Aziz mentioned earlier, is how to take a third-party control and actually change the look of this menu with something that you've seen online, right? Which can be a quick way to modify the look and feel of your site. So here's your quick launch, and obviously the footer that we talked about, we don't have it filled in, but there is a room for a footer inside your master page. And inside your master page, because keep in mind your master page is going to span across multiple pages, right? More likely you're going to have one master page for entire intranet, or maybe two master pages for entire intranet, right? So if you want some logic, such as a JavaScript, let's say you want to add a JavaScript that does some cool stuff on your site. For instance, one of the examples that we showed in the video, also in the video DVD, is how you can hide the quick launch, or how you can add the functionality to hide your quick launch using a JavaScript. So if you need a functionality like that will be available across the entire site, you would use the master page as a home area, or as a home base for that functionality. Also, for your developers, or if you are a developer in a project, if you want to incorporate some sort of a custom control that will relate to either a quick launch or footer area, for instance, I don't know, maybe it's some sort of a control that interacts with a currently logged in user to, I don't know, say hello John or whatever, right? Or perform some sort of a browser check or something like that. If you want that control to be loading every time on every page, the master page would be the best area to put it in, because that master page will be wrapping every single page on your site. So you would define your controls inside your master page. So now that you know what master page is all about, let's switch actually to the area of the master page where we actually have our content. And I know it's barely noticeable, but there's this placeholder main. When you hover over it, it actually shows you the little placeholder main area. So the placeholder main is a placeholder where the page layout is going to be rendered, and then the page layout obviously is going to be used by the page. So the placeholder main really is where your page is going to be. So all around, everything around it, this is just a master page. Everything within placeholder main, this is where your page is. This is where your page is. So that's important concept to understand. So before we switch to page layouts and to the concept of page layouts and how to create new page layout and add some customization to it, let's see, do we have any questions?
Yeah, actually there is a page layout related question that I would like to throw to you.
Sure.
So Yuri is asking, let me just go ahead and read the exact question. Yuri is asking, is it possible to apply security to a layout page, therefore to make some layout pages available only to certain users?
Oh, very good question. Well, there is, naturally. Each page layout is an item within the master page library. So, for example, we looked where page layouts and master pages are within Sharepoint Designer, right? They're under Catalogs, Master Pages. What you can also do, you can navigate to the site itself, right? I'm going to go Site Actions, Site Settings, and then Master Page and Page Layouts. And in here, all of my master pages and page layouts are located. And I can pick anything I want here, and I can manage permissions on it, right? So for example, if I'm talking about my nightandday.master, I can manage permissions on it just like a regular document in the document library. And if the user that doesn't have permissions to it is attempting to access it, they will not be able to access it. But keep in mind, use it judiciously, because if you take away access from something that's used on the site everywhere, right? Everybody's going to get access denied error, and or some users may get access denied error, and you may not even know why, right? So that's definitely something to keep in mind. So the answer is yes, it's possible. the sub-answer is be careful with it. So, yeah.
Yuri's also, I'm sorry, I was just going to say that Yuri is also asking another part question saying, how can I rename a page layout file or move it to a different mode, therefore to change, let's see if this is right, therefore to change not just the title but path. Couldn't find how to do it.
I think I know, I think that's exactly what we're going to be looking at in the next section of this demo. So here's what we're going to be looking at, and tell me if that answers the question. So we're going to be looking at how to create a new page layout, or and change its name. And the same way you can change the page layout, existing page layout name, and basically use it on our site. If that answers the question, then in a couple of seconds we're going to talk about that. If not, then then yeah, you can clarify, and we can answer that as well.
Great.
Okay, so Yuri says, let's see. I can see the comment. All right. Any more questions, Jesse?
We'll take one more and then we'll move on. So let's see. I hope I don't butcher your name, but Kandasamy is asking, is it possible to change the logged in user's display name from the default last name, first name to first name space last name format? If yes, where do we need to make this change?
Okay, very good question. So you're talking probably about, right now it's a system account, right? That's probably the one that you're talking about. All right, yes. So the answer is yes. So this particular piece is a special control. So if I go to my night-and-day.master, this is a special control here, right? It's called the welcome control. You can see it's highlighted here. So this particular piece of functionality is sealed as the component developed by Microsoft. Now, the best thing to do here is to create an instance of that control, and and implement the functionality changes that you want to implement. So the way you find out where that control is actually implemented, so this one's called welcome, right? The ID is welcome, and then there's this tag prefix, what they call. So I'm going to search for it, Control F, and then I'm going to, well, you know what, there's probably more than one, so I'm just going to scroll all the way to the top and search where that control is defined here. So there's where this control is defined. So there's a welcome, right? So there's our welcome control, and it lives under control templates welcome.ascx. So control templates is a SharePoint folder, and okay, I'm not going to spend too much time on it because it's a little bit not 100% branding related, but just to point you in the right direction. So in the SharePoint root, there is in templates, in control templates, that's where your welcome control is defined. So you can create a new copy of this welcome control, right, and then implement the logic that will render the name in whatever format you desire. And basically what you would do in your master page later is, rather than referencing this control, you would delete reference to this control and point it to your own control, and that's how you would implement that change.
Great.
Hopefully that wasn't overwhelming.
That's perfect.
Okay, so should we move on and then see if we get more?
Yep, that's a good idea.
Perfect. All right, awesome. Very good questions so far. Very good. Very excited. So all right, so let's go back to my page here. So okay, so let's see. When I added this page, right away the ribbon shows up here, and then there's this, and it right away switches to the page mode, and then there's this page layout drop down. So when I click on this page layout drop down, I'm just going to move the GoToMeeting window here, and in that page layout drop down, you can see a variety of different page layouts that are already available. And those are the page layouts that you've seen in this page layout gallery that I showed just a second ago for Yuri, right? And the page layout that this particular page is using is the splash page. So the splash page looks like this, right? It's defined in this particular way. So it has some sort of image, publishing image on the top, some summary links, and some web part zones. There's a variety of other page layouts, of course, there is a blank web part page. If I switch to it, you'll see right away that the whole entire page gets rearranged. Obviously, the master page remains the same, right? That doesn't change. But everything else on the page, now look, I have different zones. I have a right zone of the same size as the center zone. There's a couple of other web part zones. So the layout here is governed, the layout of this page right away, the page hasn't really changed. The page has exactly the same content, right? It has the same press release web part. If I add a new web part here, let's actually add one. That web part will still remain on the page, but the layout has been changed completely and governed now by the page layout, by the new page layout. So let's say if I add a new web part here, it's a content editor web part, and I say some test content, and I'm gonna save the page with that web part now that it shows up. If I switch back to the editing mode and switch the page layout now back to the splash page, right away that particular web part is going to be placed into some zone, because it doesn't know which zone you want it to, into some zone, and basically the web part is going to be rearranged and look different. So what I want to show you in this particular case is what happens like almost all the time, right? Is people, they're happy with the way that current page layout looks like, right? Like I can be totally fine with the way that this particular page layout looks like, but there's one or two elements I totally am not happy about. So let's say I like this top web part zone, so it spans across, the whole page. There's this two zones here that span across one of the pages, or one of the 50% of the top one. But I really want to get rid of those two guys. Like I don't want this summary links in this image here on the top. So let's take a look at how that's done. So I'm gonna save this page, leave it as is, switch back to my SharePoint Designer, close my master page because we're done with the master page, and inside my gallery for my page layouts and master pages, I will locate that splash page. Here's the title, by the way. So the title of the page layout is exactly the same one as you see in the drop-down menu there. So here's my splash page. What I'm going to do, I can obviously modify the splash page right here, but not a good idea because it's out of the box. You don't want to break out of the box things. So I'm just going to copy this one, copy, paste. Right? And there you go. Here's my new copy of the same splash page. I'm going to change the name and call it my splash page. ASPX, great. And I'm going to save it. And so obviously they have the same title, so they're not going to, it's not going to work. Users are not going to be able to distinct them. So I'm going to check it out and then change the title to something else, something like my splash page, right? Splash page, and click OK. So now that it's there, what I need to do, I need to check it in, right? So because if I don't check it in, it's not going to be available for anybody else to see. Well, if you have more than one user, if you're the only user, you can see it, right? Because right now the page is checked out to you, so that's the standard SharePoint concept, right? Unless you check it in and publish it, it's not gonna be available to anyone. Since I also have approval enabled on this page, and approval is enabled for this page is so that, for instance, in a scenario where you have hierarchical organization, and let's say before any changes are applied to the home page, right? Obviously, pretty good practice. If someone changes it, let's say the manager of the design department or whoever maintains the home page is going to have to approve it to make sure it looks okay. So before they approve it and make it available for everyone, it's not going to be available. It will be available in draft mode. So for my demo, I'll just say, yes, let's approve it. And here it is pending. It's in the pending category. And I'm going to say approve. And then say it's been approved. Great. So now it's an approved category. So now it's available for everyone. So let's take a look at how that, does it show up really on the site? So I'm going to go back to the edit mode of this home page here and go into page layout, and sure enough my splash page is here. So I'm going to click it so it loads the splash page, Now you're not going to see any difference because it's just a copy of the existing page. So let's go ahead and make some changes here. So I'm going to save this page, and I'm not going to touch this page anymore. I'm just going to touch the page layout here and get rid of those elements here that I don't want. So now that I'm in my SharePoint Designer, I'm going to check out the page again, and then click it, and then edit the file, and I'm going to get rid of those two elements here. Now that it's loading, so while it's loading, any questions so far about page layouts?
Not regarding page layout specifically, but there were other questions if you want to, let's see.
Sure. We can take them now or later. It doesn't matter really. Yeah.
There's one which relates to some of the stuff. He says, Mike is asking, when making these branding changes, they're specific to a site, so are the changes held in the server files or in the web app configuration database?
Ah, very good question. Very good question. So the question is, okay, so I'm making those changes. Are they on a file system or are they in the database? So the answer is, correct me if I'm wrong. That's the question. I think that's the question. So the answer is they are in the configuration. They're not really in configuration database. They are in content database, right? Because everything that you access through SharePoint Designer, which lives in the library, right away goes into the database, right? We're not really touching anything on the file system. Apart from that control that I showed, right, the welcome control just a second ago, which obviously lives on a file system, everything else lives in the database.
Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and append to that answer a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know, this is for everybody, that if you are in the SharePoint Designer application, just remember that there's nothing you can do in there that's going to touch the file system at all. So it is not even allowed. Doesn't matter if it's workflows, site columns, whatever it is that you're working on. Everything is going to go into the database domain. Nothing you can change at the file server level. Perfect.
Yeah, I can see how it's confusing, right? Because it has a structure and everything.
Yeah.
It looks like a file system.
Exactly.
Yeah. SharePoint is deceiving, hey? Let's. Okay, so hopefully that answers the question. Let's go ahead and modify this page layout. So when I just click Edit on the Edit screen, it switches into this like really restricted mode where I can only change a few things, and you'll see because it's all kind of like there's a little yellow and you can't type something here. See, it doesn't type anything. So you need to edit the page. You can only modify the page layout only specific parts. So if you want to modify any part of the page layout, you need to switch into the advanced mode for editing page layouts. So I'm going to go back to my master page and page layouts library, find my splash page, there it is, and then click Edit File in Advanced Mode. So that's a common caveat, right? Like usually people are like, well, how come I can't add it? Do I have permissions? Don't I have permissions? I have permissions. Why can't I edit it? So that's just a common thing. It's just a SharePoint Designer safety feature. So in here, just like in the master page, it looks like a master page editing mode, right? But if you see the area that are dedicated to the master page, will right away have a little stop sign here or something of that sort, meaning that this is part of the page, the master page. You can't really modify it. So all of those areas are blocked from modification. You can only modify the areas that are not blocked. So I'm going to go ahead here and get rid of some of the elements I want to get rid of. So for instance, this page image, I don't want that page image. You can hide it right here, right? Or you can just delete it. You can just delete it. Just make sure that you created a copy of whatever you're deleting before, if you're not 100% confident if you're deleting the right thing. So also I want to delete those summary links here. Summary links are right here. So actually I want to get rid of both of them, the left one and the right one. So I'm going to delete the whole row that's dedicated to the summary links. All right. And similar to this, let's say if I wanted to add a new web part zone here, let's say I wanted to add a web part zone for the footer, right? So we have a header web part zone, we have a center two web part zones, and I want to have the footer web part zone. I can add it right here. So right within this view. So let me just move my GoToMeeting window here. and show you. So for instance, if I wanted to add the new web part zone, I could just very easy. The easiest thing is to just take a copy of the existing web part zone, right? This one, for instance, and place it wherever you want to place it. So if we have a bottom zone here, we have another zone right beside it, and then I guess we're going to have to add another row, right, of web part zones, and then add another column for this new web part zone. And obviously, since it's 2 columns, one of them is going to have to be empty. And we're going to add, why not? So, and then we're going to add, a web part zone into one of them. But keep in mind, one thing that you need to do is make sure that IDs are different. So this one's called top zone, so make sure to call it bottom zone, or whatever is not used. I don't know, bottom right zone, I guess bottom zone, or footer, right? Footer zone. So the frame type is okay. The title, so the title is in here is using resource string, so you can just change it to something that will be displayed to the user that they can be sure about. So when you're ready, just save it, and there you go. The footer. So the footer right now doesn't extend all the way in, just because we have 2 columns. But if I add the span here, the column span of 2, it will start spanning, and that's just a common CSS HTML trick, right? So now it's spanning across. So that's basically what I need to do. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to switch back to my home page here and refresh the page. Now, obviously, remember I didn't check it in, but since I'm the administrator and I'm the only user, I can still see my changes all right? So right away, page has changed without me even modifying the page. That's because I changed the underlying layout. If I go to the edit mode of the page, right away, well, my image is gone, right, and my site links are gone, and I have my footer here and my my other web parts here as I wanted them to be, where I can rearrange them and do things like that. So one last thing I wanted to show you is, all right, well, we've done all the structural changes, right? That's great. How about making some visual changes, right? For example, let's say I want to change, and that's something that we've talked a lot about on the DVD as well, how to make visual customizations and transfer branding from either your corporate site or existing site, or if a design team has created the design for you, how do you actually go about making those changes on your site? So, well, here's what I have here. So I have the site sharepointvideos.com that I like, let's say, right? And I want to transfer some of the branding from this site over to my corporate site. And either this is going to be your existing public site, or it's it's existing branding that your designers have given you. Let's take a look at what's involved in doing that. So for this particular example, I'm going to use Firefox, and I'll explain why. Firefox, Internet Explorer has also some of the developer tools that are helpful, but I find Firefox has this really handy tool called Firebug. And to add the Firebug to your Firefox, you click Tools, Add Add-ons, and then just search for Firebug, and you install it. It's kind of like an add-on, kind of like an app. Internet Explorer comes with a similar feature, but it has a little bit of less functionality. It's a little harder to use. So you'll see exactly what I mean. So by using Firebug, I'm going to open the Firebug window, and when using Firebug, I can click here, click this particular tool to inspect element, and you can inspect various elements on the site here, like for instance this header, right? And then find out exactly what the underlying HTML and style looks like. So what you could do, if you like something, or if you like to borrow some of the branding, I hope it's okay with you. See if I'm going to borrow some of your branding.
Absolutely.
to my site. You just select it, and let's say it throws you right into the area where that particular part is responsible for that particular branding. What you do, you can also on the fly, obviously this doesn't change anything on the side. On the fly, you can turn off some of the things, right? And you can see right away what changes are happening on the side if you do that. So it's really handy for your SharePoint sites too. So let's say I'm gonna switch now back to my SharePoint site, and I want to do the same thing for my content editor web part here. So I'm gonna I already have Firefox opened with the contoso.com in it. It's still using the wrong layout, so I'm just going to refresh the page. Now it's fine. I'm going to press F12 to open the Firebug, and then inspect this web part, Chrome or title of the web part. So you can see the structure of the web part is pretty complex, right? Well, first of all, it's completely different from the one that we've seen in SharePoint videos. And here we have structure of tables and rows and columns, where in here we have divs, which is a newer method of structuring things. And the reason why SharePoint is using still tables and divs, just to answer some of your questions, is probably for compatibility reasons, nothing more than that, with older browsers. Yeah. So what I want to do, for instance, I want to make basically every web part on my site that I add here that uses this particular page layout to have a little Chrome like this one, or a little underlying line with this particular style. So what I'll do is I'm gonna identify the style that I need to change, and in this case it's pretty simple to do, right? You just inspect the element, and you see right away that H3 in this case is the part that's responsible for rendering this whole section. And then there's this class called MS. Oh, it's gone. It's called MSWP title. So web part title, right? So basically, I need to add additional customizations to this class, and right away, the page layout is going to render those customizations on my site. So let's take a look at what's involved in that. So I'm going to switch back to my page layout here. But this time, I'm gonna scroll a little bit up to the top here and see what already existing CSS files our page layout uses. So as you can see that there's a couple of CSS files that this page layout is already using. Obviously, it has some branding. It doesn't look completely blank, right? So it has already something. So it's using this this CSS here for just a specific CSS for this page, inside this style library, language specific, so in our case it's going to be English US, core styles, and then page layout 2.1 CSS. So really what I could do, I could define my new CSS declaration and define my changes there, and that's the better way to do that. Or you could just modify this page layout right away. So it's up to you. So what we're going to do, what I would like to do here, I would like to make a copy of this CSS, right? Because this CSS is already used by our out-of-the-box CSS, right? So I don't want to modify anything here, because then it's going to be applied to everywhere else. I want to create a copy of this CSS and then change the reference from the page layout to whatever I want. So let's do that. So let's see where that page is. It's inside, or that CSS is. It's inside Style Library, Language, and then Core Styles. So I'm going to go to All Files, and I'm just going to refresh things to see. I would have waited a long time for this. Style Library is right here. Language, right? So English US. If you're using multilingual, then you have to also account for that. Core styles, and there's my page layout 2.1. So I'm just going to do the same thing I did with the page layout, copy and paste, and I'm going to give it a new name called splash.css. All right, so I'm going to open it up, edit the file, ask me if I want to check it out. So here's what's already inside that file. So I'm just going to add my additional declaration inside that file for my web part. For my MSWP title, and then transfer the definitions from SharePoint videos, because that's, let's say, the branding that I want to transfer. So I've found my class, I've declared my class here. Now I'm gonna go back to SharePoint videos, and I'm going to take the declarations and styles describing this particular class here. Copy them onto here. So now that the styles are applied, I will save this particular splash.css and make sure that I have references inside here. So it's called, oops, wrong window, splash.css, save it, and then, so that's it, that should be it. Now I'm going to go back to my home page here and refresh it, and that should have at least a little bit of branding. Okay, well, it has some branding, right? It has a line at least, but it doesn't really look, the font doesn't really look exactly the same. The color is not the same, and the size is not the same, right? So the reason why that happens is because, as you can see in here, all of it is defined under H1, right? Right underneath the header. But in SharePoint, it's so nested that it's defined the actual text and the size of the text is defined under span, right? So H3 is there under MS Web Part Title. There's also span underneath it that actually contains the size and the color. So a really easy way to test it out is, for instance, if I wanted to see whether that's the right place for me to make changes, what I can do here in Firebug, I can say new property, and then define that property. So for instance, I'm going to take the property for the font family, right? So I'm just going to take the font family in this case, and then apply it to here and see whether that's the right place for me to make the change. So font family, and I'm going to paste it, and potentially that's not the right, I'm actually looking for a span. So is there span defined already here? The span may not be defined here. So if it's not defined, then I might as well just define it inside Sharepoint Designer. And it's true, it's not defined here. So here's what I need to do. I need to leave this as is, because it already gives me some of the branding that I need, but then also create a new one, a new class here with span, and define the font family, font size, and font weight there rather than inside my web part title. So that's exactly what I'm going to do that. I'm going to add this here because really the text is not inside my right inside my class. It's inside the span itself. It looks a little bit messy, so I'm just going to clean this up, save it, and then so now when I refresh it, things should look better. Well, they look a little better, right? So the font is now different, the style is different. The color, so the color is the last piece that needs to be moved, right? So now the color is going to be proper color. Everything else remains there because it's not part of the text declaration. So now that I refresh it, the color has changed. So now what's going to happen, since it's defined in the page layout, anytime I add a new web part here, let's say add another web part here called, again, let's add another content editor web part here, add some text in it. You can see already the style changing. Editor. All right. Misspelled the sentence, but anyways. So as you can see, the style gets applied throughout, right? So since this change has been done to the page layout rather than the master page, if I change the layout here, or if there's another page that uses a different page layout, my changes, all of my beautiful changes to my web part styles are going to be lost if I change that layout, right? So there we go. We're back to old-looking or out-of-the-box looking page layout. As soon as I switch it back to my page layout, the changes are going to be applied. So here's a tip. If you want those particular changes to be throughout the entire site, regardless of what layout it's using, apply those changes inside your master page. All you need to do inside your master page is make a reference to that CSS file, just like you did here. That's all that's needed. Nothing else is required, right? All the master page is going to do is load that CSS, and that CSS will already tell it what to do, right? It'll tell it, okay, make sure that this web part title looks like this font looks like that. So hopefully now you know some of the key things